recording's on, participants are in.
All right, thank you. Welcome everybody. We're just letting everybody into the webinar right now, so welcome. We'll get started in a few minutes. Welcome everybody. We're going to get started right away. So I wanted to just welcome everybody. Maybe in the chat box, can you share where you're from and where you're working from today? What organization you're with and where you're working from? So as we get started right now, and as people are filling in the chat, I just wanted to welcome everybody. I am Tracy Luca-Huger. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Initiatives with Mentor Canada. And so I want to welcome you today. We've got a great panel discussion for you today. We're really thrilled to be able to highlight the power of mentoring, the success of these events, and we've got a really phenomenal, outstanding panel of leaders from the private sector today. So welcome everybody. First, from Mentor Canada, we'd like to do a land acknowledgement. At Mentor Canada, we respectfully acknowledge that the lands upon which we operate are the traditional territories of the respective First Nations, Métis Nations, and Inuit, who are the longtime stewards of these lands. And at Mentor Canada, we are very much focused on acknowledging the lands to which we work and play, and where young people are being mentored. So thank you for joining us today. So who is Mentor Canada? I want to, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, I want to share with you a little bit about who we are. Mentor Canada is a coalition of service providers and stakeholders working together to raise the profile of mentoring in Canada. Through this work, we're actively engaging more Canadians to become mentors and to provide more young people to engage in mentoring experiences in their communities and across our country. As young leaders in Canada, we know that youth want to build social supports and to establish connections to career professionals and to career opportunities, but also to build out social support networks. The Power of Mentoring events that Mentor Canada is hosting do just that. They offer opportunities to connect youth and career professionals from across our country, to increase social capital, to build out networks, to engage in mentoring and career conversations. And we're really thrilled to partner with over 40 youth serving organizations and programs, 3 core private sector leaders in providing mentoring, Power of Mentoring events across our country. And so during our transition of Power of Mentoring events, we know that young people, especially those disconnected from education, employment, and or training, should have access to mentors and to relationships that support them in achieving their career and academic goals. Mentoring relationships, as Mentor Canada believes and that we know, are powerful. They broaden perspectives, increase opportunities, and they strengthen communities for everybody. We know that that relationship between a mentor and a mentee is one of both giving and taking, teaching and learning from both sides. And the Power of Mentoring events have absolutely had those opportunities to do that. So at this point in time, what we want to do is we want to share with you our very first Power of Mentoring event that we hosted in Edmonton back in February 2020, the launch of these events over a year ago. So Jessica, if you can cue up that video, that would be great. Thank you. Jessica, I think we have a sound issue.
Power of Mentoring event
We do? Hold on.
Yeah.
is an opportunity to bring professionals from the community together with youth who are ages 18 to 24.
Is that good, Tracy?
No, it stopped again.
I hear it, so I'm not sure if it's just you, Tracy.
Okay.
Maybe Jessica, let's keep playing the video, and then it's about 2 or 3 minutes long, everybody. So we'll watch through it.
Okay, thank you.
Great warm up.
Here, I'll restart.
Power of Mentoring event is an opportunity to bring professionals from the community together with youth who are ages 18 to 24, interested in trying to expand their network, expand their skills, and access new opportunities in line with their academic and professional goals.
We have engaged private sector partners, businesses, corporations that are in local communities, as well as young people from youth-serving organizations.
There's a city councilor here sharing his story. There are entrepreneurs, members from RBC Royal Bank, members from Starbucks. The energy is very electric.
Think about this for a second. When you were young, how connected were you to diverse career pathways, to diverse skill sets, right? So when you come out to a Power of Mentoring event, you're getting exposed to all sorts of career pathways that you probably never even imagined before.
I learned like we have like a certain key, like a key to open many doors. If we have the key for mentorship, we can open many doors that can help us and benefit us, but not just us, but other people around us.
Well, selfishly, I'm a business owner, so I'm always looking for talent, and it isn't always what's on paper. It's if I'm willing to invest the time in a person, it allows me to broaden the type of candidate that we can attract into our culture and organization.
Every corporate partner benefits from just establishing these connections within their communities.
And showing them that they're not scary people. You know, you walk into RBC or Starbucks and they're busy, they're these big professionals, but today they're just here talking and just building that sense of community.
I love leaders with humility and a willingness to listen and learn and admit they don't know everything. It's a tremendous message to send to young people.
I learned that people are a lot more caring and people look out for others a lot more than what I originally thought. So it's not just you against the world. There's others out there looking out for you, wanting to give you the opportunities that you need and give you the help that you need to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve in your life.
The thing I love about Power of Mentoring events is it doesn't just stop at the event. There's an opportunity after the event for you as a participant, whether you're a young person or a mentor, to go back and tell your network all about your experience, to mobilize them to step up and engage in similar style events, or to sign up to be a mentor with a local mentoring program.
Thanks, Jessica. So part of Power of Mentoring events are absolutely building those connections for young people and with the private sector. And so at that event, it was so great to see it because I haven't watched it in a long time. And as I shared, that was our very first event that we hosted in Canada. We wanted to pilot and to host events in person across our country. And then COVID hit, of course, like everyone else. And we had to quickly pivot. What we knew from the Power of Mentoring events that we held in Edmonton was that there was an energy that young people left with connections to private sector employees, built out social capital in their networks. And what we wanted to do was to see if there was a way virtually that we could still build that energy, build meaningful connections for young people, and to continue on these opportunities. We knew during the pandemic that young people were facing more and more isolation, as were private sector employees. They were wanting an opportunity to give back to the community, and young people wanted to still engage more than ever in career conversations about their future and to look at career pathways. And so over the course of the first 2 months of the pandemic, we really honed in and looked at different formats that we could host these events. And the gift that I like to think about from COVID was that we've actually been able to meet and reach more young people across our country and to engage more private sector employees than we would have if we were holding these events in person over the course of the last year. And so we've been able to reach young people in remote communities and from diverse areas within Canada and connect them with potentially a mentor and a connection from the other side of Canada. And so these young people are building those connections and building out networks that aren't necessarily in their community, but really strengthening their opportunities for career pathways and looking at potential. And so since February 2020, we've been able to engage 1,516 participants in Power of Mentoring events. We've engaged 719 private sector employees and 797 youth. Over the course of the last year and a half. We have 40 plus youth serving programs and organizations that we work with alongside to provide these opportunities to their young people to attend. And we continue to work with our 3 core private sector companies that are here with us today, and included and advanced to increase that to 5 different private sector partners. And so we're really thrilled at the momentum that Power of Mentoring events are offering for young people, but also for our private sector and looking at building out workplace opportunities and workforce development for tomorrow. We know that youth entering into the workforce is our future, and preparing them and having them ready for on-job experiences is going to be critical for our economy and for that development. So we're very thrilled to work alongside our service providers and with our private sector companies. And so at this point in time, I really want to introduce our panelists. But what we do know from those experiences in working with our panelists is that engaging new and young people into new mentoring opportunities, one-time experiences for employees has been meaningful. They have had an opportunity to give back and to form meaningful connections during a time of physical and social isolation and during COVID, which is really critical, that we're equipping participants, both employees and young people, with skills and tools and connections at looking at workforce development, and that we're gathering assets that are incorporating recruitment as well as opportunities for young people to actually gain workplace opportunities. We are also then working alongside with our corporate partners to strengthen their community giving and their community investment, which is a remarkable opportunity. Mentor Canada is not a service provider, but these opportunities are bridging opportunities for employees of corporate Canada to engage in mentoring opportunities for 90 minutes and to build connections with young Canadians. So at this point in time, I'm going to jump into our panel discussions, and then we'll get into some other details around Power of Mentoring events. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. We couldn't be more proud of our panelists today. So I'm going to hand it to you, Ipellie, to introduce yourself. And if you can share your full name, where you're coming from today, and tell us about a mentor that has helped you in your career.
Well, it's an honor to be here, Tracy. Our connection goes on pretty far back, and it's so much has changed in my life since then. So everyone, my name is Ipellie Foo. I was born and raised in Ottawa, Ontario, And my mom grew up in Igloolik, Nunavut, so I'm proudly Indigenous. And I was going to do a land acknowledgement, but you beat me to it, Tracy. Thank you. It's always good to acknowledge your land. And I also want to encourage that you don't have to be Indigenous to acknowledge the land you live on. So really trying to promote that here. I'm very fortunate to have an Indigenous mentor who is successful in the field that I see myself pursuing in life. When I first met her, she told me this. She goes, one person can make a difference. And at this point, I was in my last semester at university. I was pretty much like, I want to work on this team. And I met her through these Power of Mentoring events. And so not only did she teach me many valuable life lessons at a critical point in my career, she also helped me make some of the most difficult decisions that I've ever faced. And I'll be getting into those a little bit later. This helped me stay calm under extreme pressure when there's so much ambiguity in your life, and also helped remind me to expect good things in life. So thank you.
Thank you, Ipellie. And thank you for joining us today. Noah, I'm going to hand it to you.
Thanks very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Noah Aiken-Klar. I work at RBC in the early talent area, where I work with colleagues to create partnerships and build programs to help encourage more young Canadians from different identities, backgrounds, and experiences to consider careers in technology and to do that at RBC. As I mentioned in the chat, I'm in Toronto, which is the Treaty 13 territory, traditional territory of many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, also governed by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, acknowledging our shared responsibility to care for the lands that we live and work on, and which I hope, and I'm very appreciative of being able to do in the spirit of reconciliation. Yeah, you can tell by the color in my beard that I've been around for a long time, and have had the really great fortune of having many mentors over the years. But one specifically, when I was in law school, actually my second degree, I went to law school, and I volunteered, which I feel very much is similar to mentorship in a way, where you're giving of yourself, not only to better yourself, but to better others. And I volunteered for a program at the law school that was run by a woman, Pam Scheim, at the time. And I didn't have a great experience, so I went to meet with her and provide some feedback around why I thought the experience hadn't been good and how I thought it could be improved. So she offered me a job. She said, "Well, great feedback. Why don't you work for me and you can make those changes?" And that started my career as a student. But then later on, when I left my practice, when she called me up to ask if I'd come over and take her job, and which I did. And she has been a mentor of mine over the years, mostly because in her, I see what I hope all mentors can be, which is someone who not only gives them themselves, but creates opportunities and promotes and sponsors their mentees to be the best they can be. And I'm really lucky to still consider her a mentor today.
That's phenomenal, Noah. Thank you so much. And Ipellie and you have a very similar story around career opportunities and career pathways that are being offered through those connections and those meaningful conversations and relationships early on in your career. And so thank you for sharing that, because that really does highlight the impact that those conversations through Power of Mentoring can offer for young people in our country. So thank you. Keshia, I'm going to hand it to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Keshia Ali, and I am in Toronto. As you can see from my bio, I am with Starbucks Canada, and all of my work ranges from community engagement to opportunity and refugee hiring, sustainability. And I love that mentorship can happen to you and you don't even know it. So it's actually been happening to me my entire life, because at its lowest point, it's guidance, right? No fixed time frame. And I would say anytime someone took the time to have a conversation with me and provide guidance or feedback, that was mentoring, because all of those little deposits and knowledge has shaped me into who I am. With my current manager, we've never formalized our relationship into a mentor-mentee, but this person has contributed to my success over the past few years to where here I am on this panel, and I never thought that would be possible. I love that I'm encouraged and challenged to think bigger and what could be possible and a why not mindset. And that is what mentorship has provided me with, a lot of the tools and confidence and knowledge to do bigger and better things.
Keshia, I love hearing that story of mentorship, because like so many Canadians that haven't been part of a formal program, the majority of young people and individuals in our country have had informal. And I love that you shared that, you know what, I've been mentored and I didn't even know it at the time. And so many opportunities happen where in hindsight, we reflect back and it's, you know what, that was mentoring. That person, what they said and their influence and they're challenging me, right? That was mentorship. And that really was significant in my life. So thank you for sharing that story. And Gillian, last but not least, I'm going to hand it to you.
Thank you, Tracy. Hello, everybody. My name is Gillian Salazar. I work for Deloitte Canada out of Toronto, and I lead our corporate responsibility and sustainability portfolio at the firm, which includes things like employee engagement, volunteerism, and all of our community partners. My mentor was actually my grade 11 English teacher. And what was so incredible at that time is, you know, she really recognized when I was in school that I had this real knack for creativity and a love for writing. And she took the time to really talk to me about what career opportunities could look like using my skill sets and the things that I love to do, which I didn't really give a lot of thought at the time. She really proactively started those conversations with me. And it was through her that, you know, she connected me to somebody that she knew that worked for Palmer Jarvis, which was a really, back in the day, we're talking many years ago, Palmer Jarvis was a really big, successful ad agency that was located in Vancouver. So through her contact and some additional networking, I got a chance to tour the office, meet a number of people, spent an afternoon talking to people across the agency and what they did. And that really opened my eyes. Like, I really had no idea that there was this like world of work, you know, at agencies where I could use and do the things that I love. And that really helped, you know, that really influenced the courses I took in university. My very first job from graduating at SFU was actually working at an agency doing public relations. So her mentorship to me really set that trajectory. And I think what's so interesting about this is that, you know, 25 plus years later, I can still remember that day that I took a tour of that office. I remember those conversations I had. I mean, it is seared in my memory. And those were maybe 15, 20 minutes conversations I had with those different folks. So I think the lesson that I've taken away from that experience is you just don't know. It could be, you know, like through Power of Mentoring, a 90-minute conversation, and you might not think, you know, it's a big deal, but that carries a lot of weight. And I think the impact that those conversations have, you just never know how it's going to transpire someone's life. So yeah, I think, again, Power Mentoring really, you know, it can take many shapes and forms, but even a one conversation can really help change someone's life.
Thanks so much, Gillian. I loved you sharing that your mentor pointed out a skill set that you didn't identify in yourself and that you didn't recognize. And so many times, individuals that we encounter can see that potential, see a skill set, see an opportunity or a strength that you have that you don't identify necessarily as a strength, and to leverage that and to move it forward. So it's those aha moments. And I just love that sharing, because so many times we just don't see that necessarily, but somebody else does. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to highlight, so our panelists introduced themselves, and I wanted to highlight the companies that are here today, because without them, the success of Power of Mentoring would not be as significant as it is today. And as you know, RBC is one of Canada's largest banks, and it's a purpose-driven company. It's dedicated to creating positive social and economic impact for communities that they serve. And so they do that through their engagement with Power of Mentoring, but beyond that, through their RBC Future launch, they empower young people for jobs for tomorrow and increasing access to work-related programs, tools, and resources. Deloitte is an industry leader driven by their purpose to make an impact that matters to their clients, their people, and the communities that they work in. And they're committed to supporting Indigenous young leaders, communities, and youth and organizations for almost 30 years. They are invested in promoting young people to become employees and to engage them in workplace readiness and professional skills. So thrilled. And Starbucks Canada is taking real action in Canada to tackle the critical issue around youth unemployment. They are very much focused on this national problem, and they give it immediate hands-on attention, where they actually are committed to employing 10% of their hires that would be young people that are facing barriers to employment, education, and training. And so these three private sector companies, hands-on, live and breathe, engaging young people, not only in mentoring conversations and believe in the power of mentoring, but they are invested in young people to become their workforce for tomorrow. So thank you so very much. I wanted to highlight the significant work that you're doing as individual private sector companies. So I'm going to move forward into some further questions to each of you. And so I am going to just let each of you jump in. First question that I would love for you to share, and you started to highlight a little bit. Can you share with us the value of power of mentoring? What have these events meant for you or for your organization? Who'd like to start?
I can go.
That'd be great, Ipellie. Thank you.
Well, so like I said, I met my mentor through the Power of Mentoring events, and this connection eventually led me to work on her team at Deloitte Indigenous. And so I had the privilege of supporting a team of highly skilled and experienced professionals that helped embed reconciliation of Indigenous peoples within the mandates of organizations in corporate Canada. Now, you might think, Ipellie, that is a huge accomplishment. And to me, that was my absolute dream job. But realistically, for me, I felt it was a really big step. I had just graduated from university. I had felt very conflicted in this experience because it was everything I wanted, but I almost felt not strong enough in my strengths, and I wasn't applying it properly. And so to have these tough conversations with my mentor was very valuable for me. And so when I brought it up with my mentor, she helped me make the decision to actually depart from this position. And it was very, very tough for me to do that because it felt like I had everything from amazing people, leaders, benefits, and the impact. Like I said, it was my dream, but it's all part of my story. And I can now say that I can bring an Indigenous lens and grow my marketing skills to organizations that I come across. And maybe I'll go back when I feel confident in applying my skills to bring the most impact to Indigenous peoples. But the moral of that story is that my mentor helped guide me. She helped create this irreplaceable experience that is now the foundation to my career growth. And she also helped paint this big picture in my life, which to me, I think is priceless. And that was one of the great values that I've gotten from the Power of Mentoring events. And mentors also help change the way that I think I carry myself. There's one mentor that told me influence is at all levels in an organization. And in that way, we're all leaders to those we have influence on. So I think it could be, 100 of professionals, or it could just be my brother. But in the end, your actions and your words will have influence on these people and will hopefully teach you to be a wonderful leader in the future. And this is all stuff I've learned from my mentors. And it hasn't even been a year since I've really met everyone in my mentor world. And I have everything to be grateful for.
Thank you, Ipellie. Noah, can I turn it to you?
Sure, happy to jump in. Hopefully it's not news to anyone, all the different values of these kinds of events, but I'll just go through some of the ones that I see or that we see at RBC. So, clearly whenever you're mentoring young people or anyone who's starting off in a career or considering a change in career, you're hoping to help them make, important decisions, make better decisions, consider their options. I mean, the real value you're trying to create is for that individual in that moment. But by creating an opportunity for employees to participate in that, you're also giving them an opportunity not only to be involved and have those feelings of satisfaction and kind of engagement around being given the chance to be involved in something like that, which they really appreciate and which really drives their own engagement in their work. But you're also helping them to learn. I mean, I think I'm sure all of us would agree that mentors get just as much, if not more, sometimes out of the experience as mentees do. So, you know, your employees get to build their experience, build their own skills, feel more engaged, which is going to definitely make them feel happier and more engaged at work and serve their clients better and drive to greater impact through their work. And then I think the last thing I'd say, and I'm sure my co-panelists would say other things as well, but then you've got the overall brand kind of glow of being a company that engages employees in community and important issues. And that is something that, you know, more and more potential customers or clients are looking for when they make their decisions around who they want to do business with. They're looking to see what companies are doing that kind of thing. So I think you get to see it across all those different levels.
Thanks so much, Noah. I agree. I think that it's that back and forth, the employees gaining just as much out of these experiences as the young leaders. And we hear that time and time again. Keshia, I'm gonna turn it to you to answer the question this time.
And it relates to what Noah said. It's about employee engagement for us at Starbucks. Like, we often hear from our partners, which is what we call our employees, that they want to be part of something bigger. So we say we're in the people business and we just happen to serve coffee, but interacting with people and giving back is really why people want to be employed here. And the Power of Mentoring events provide just that opportunity. So not only do our employees enjoy meeting new youth through these events, they also have the opportunity to long-term engage with them by connecting on LinkedIn or having, right now, virtual sessions. And we have something called purpose. So we have store purpose, individual purpose that we use as part of development at Starbucks. And we've heard from our staff that they feel their sense of purpose is fulfilled by being able to give back directly through mentoring, because they can see the real impact and positive effects on a person's professional and personal life. So the employee engagement value has been huge through Power of Mentoring.
Thanks so much, Keshia. I'm going to hand it to you now, Gillian.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, I think the value the Power of Mentoring has had with Deloitte Canada has really been some very strong strategic alignment in our own, our firm's purpose. We've all sort of touched on that, but more specifically at Deloitte, it has been alignment with our corporate responsibility strategy called World Class, which is all about helping prepare, the next generation for the future of work. So how can we help develop skills, access to education, access to opportunities? So the objectives of the Power of Mentoring program and what we are looking for in terms of our corporate strategy programs, there was just such a fantastic fit there. Other parts of the firm that it also helped support, and Ipellie spoke to this, was around our commitment to Indigenous communities. So through the Power of Mentoring, we also created additional programs where we did one specifically with, and in partnership with one of our other organizations called Inspire Canada, but we actually ran, mentorship for specifically Indigenous young leaders and connected them with mentors. And then on top of all that great strategic alignment and the volunteer, approach to volunteer or skills-based volunteering, which is a very big piece of our volunteering efforts at Deloitte Canada, I just think the value to myself and my team, it just in the way that Mentor Canada developed the program, very turnkey, very collaborative. So it was just really easy for us to be able to use the program and activate it across our firm, especially when you are, a small team in a very big company, which I'm sure many of us can feel that. It just made it easy for us to be able to deliver these programs for employee engagement, and also knowing that we were helping, giving back to youth in our communities.
It's fabulous. Thank you so much, Gillian. And it's interesting because as we shifted to an online format, we had a one in-person format created for Power of Mentoring that we knew worked and built energy. And so as we shifted to a virtual experience, we actually established 4 different formats that are very much in tune with what the corporate responsibility is and what the corporate investment wants, both from an employee engagement, but also aligning. And so we offer 4 different formats. One is Pathways and Perspectives, which is a facilitated panel where we can hone in on one company in one business unit and be able to really have a panel discussion with young leaders, and then allow those young leaders to break into breakout rooms with employees from that corporation and with the panelists to have more one-on-one and small group deep dive discussions around career opportunities, pathways, having those critical conversations around identifying skill sets and different ways to go about that career journey. The other session that we've created is Learning with Leaders, and those really are based on one-to-one discussions and fostering those connections with employees in small breakout room discussions. So with that, young people and young leaders will leave Power of Mentoring events with at least 4 new connections with employees from those companies. The other session that we offer is Focus Connections, and those are fireside chats with C-suite leaders within those organizations, so that those young leaders actually can ask CEOs and leaders within companies such as Deloitte and RBC and Starbucks to have inside information, to hear about their own career journeys, but even more so to build those connections that the CEO has got a mentoring story as well, and has got a journey story of their career that may have twisted and turned, similar to your career journey, Noah, around different pathways and different experiences that landed them where they are today. And then those young people can leave with those connections as well. Then we also offer a 4th format called Skill Builder, where we can hone in with young people on building different skills. And so we've hosted around resume building, how to engage with talent acquisition and recruitment in a virtual sense during the pandemic. So how do you get to stand out with a resume? How do you engage virtually? How do you conduct yourself in a virtual interview, or building those connections? So those 4 formats, we work really closely with each of your companies around what is the value set, where do you see some gaps, and where would you like to further extend conversations with young leaders tomorrow and today. And so what's key for us is that it's turnkey, exactly like you said, Gillian. Those are important. We know that your employees and each of you have really demanding positions, and certainly during the pandemic. And so it was really critical for us that we work collectively to build the concept, and then we deliver and facilitate it so that your employees will be well prepped with pre-materials and post-materials. But during that 90-minute experience, we will guide them on a journey to allow them to really hone in on those conversations with meaning and personal journey and experience. And so with that, I'm going to ask you, each of you, another question. How do these opportunities through Power of Mentoring align with your investment in young leaders of tomorrow and workforce development? And I'm going to start with you this time, Keshia. Is that okay?
Yeah, Starbucks is a leader when it comes to employing opportunity youth and refugees. And we focus on, those that may have barriers. When we think about marginalized youth, those between 16 to 29 years of age, that's the demographic that we really want to focus on. And we've partnered with multiple employment agencies. Seeing just from the chat, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Clubs, those are the kind of organizations that we're looking to refer their youth onto our partnered employment agencies. We have a work placement program for the past 12 years in all of our major markets to take youth who are not job ready, develop their skills, and get them job ready for that next step. We've helped co-found Opportunity for All Youth, the coalition, and that goal was to hire 40,000 youth over 5 years. And you mentioned it before, our 10% hiring goal. So mentoring and investing in youth is right there with one of our key strategies. And we know how crucial mentorship can be. It's an additional layer and like a wraparound support to all of the employment agencies and the coaching that's already out there. But again, there's formal, informal, and mentorship can really help you achieve not only your employment goals, but also your personal goals, which build your confidence, builds your network. And so with the lack of social capital, we see investing in youth, because they are the future, a really, really important corporate strategy. And then of course, I have to mention, we've also partnered with Mentor Canada to have Mentor Me, which is a Black youth-facing mentorship program between 16 to 29. Just as many opportunities as we can to reach youth. So it's like hand in hand. We're very aligned with this.
Thank you so much, Keshia. Yeah, that investment is just incredible. And I've had the opportunity to sit in many Power of Mentoring events, and your partners that show up are wholeheartedly invested in the success of young people, not only to become employees with Starbucks, but on future development and really reaching their potential. And I remember one of the partners saying is, we look at an interview with a young person as an opportunity. We don't want to vet them out. We actually want to encourage them and we want to hire them. And that's the whole goal of that interview, is getting them through that gate. And so that investment is just tremendous. So thank you for sharing that. Gillian, can I hand it to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's, again, I talked about strategic alignment with our corporate responsibility strategy of world class. And to Keshia's point, a big focus for us in world class is really looking to support communities that have been traditionally underrepresented, that haven't had that same access to opportunity as others. And so again, the program aligned really well to making sure that we support those communities. And again, this approach to skills-based volunteering, which is really critical. And what we find from, and I think Noah spoke to this earlier about the impact that something like mentoring has, not just on the mentee, but the mentor. And I think when you can really, leverage your skills and experiences to give back to the community, there's just something so, I think, really fulfilling in that. And we really saw that through this program. Our employees were really highly engaged. So some tremendous value there for us.
I completely agree, Gillian. Yeah. And our work together collaboratively and actually creating, a 4-week experience through Power of Mentoring events for your employees and for young people across this country was tremendous. And that investment of, hundreds of employees investing in young people across our country in the fall was just tremendous. So thank you. And is a really nice example of that commitment that Deloitte has to young leaders in our country. Noah, I'm going to hand it to you now.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, and I mean, I could probably speak for a long time about, and I'm very proud about all the different things RBC is doing that are aligned with this work. Like from RBC Future Launch, which hopefully everyone has heard about, and which I was very happy and fortunate to be able to help create, to our commitments to racialized communities, BIPOC communities over the past year, and before, but specifically over the past year since George Floyd's killing and the awakening that was long overdue, and that's happened since, and hopefully will continue to lead to action. But I just, so I can go on, and if people want to talk to me about some of those things, I'm happy to do it. But just more broadly, I think one of the things I want to see on this point about the alignment between what Mentor Canada does and our relationship means is just that, if anything, I think what we've learned over the last year and a half is that when times are good, good things can sometimes just sort of happen by accident. But when times are bad, it really makes you reflect on the fact that you really have to be intentional about everything you do. And I think mentorship can happen informally, but good mentoring often requires a lot of thought on the part of both the mentee and the mentor in terms of what they want to get out of that relationship. And I think the materials that Mentor Canada provides and that that people bring to the homework sort of you do, bringing to those relationships, is super important. And I think that's one of the big learnings that we have through this relationship, and also just more broadly. And, well, I think Keshia and others have spoken about the barriers that different communities face getting into employment. And that's another example of, unless you're really intentional about acknowledging systemic discrimination and racism and barriers, it can persist. It can persist despite people's best intentions sometimes, because if you don't think about it and focus on it and really lean into what has to get done, then you can see the impact that it can have. And I think COVID has shown us how disproportionate impacts have been felt by different members of the community, from young people to women, and obviously to racialized communities. So I think all of this to me aligns very much around just the importance of taking moments like this and being part of programs like this to be reflective and intentional about what it is we're trying to create.
Thank you, Noah. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most incredible things that we've learned through these virtual events is the impact and the isolation, not only for employees, but for young people that they felt during this pandemic. And all of us were going through that at the same time. You know, young people and adults and professionals, we were all experiencing this for the first time together. And it created that space to connect and wanting those connections where we couldn't physically have them at this current time. And so Ipellie, I'm gonna hand it to you to share from your experience around the value of these conversations and the value of mentoring, especially during the pandemic time. I wanted to give you some space to share that.
Thank you so much. I think from a youth perspective, these events have helped. I think it's made it easier than ever, actually, to find a mentor that best tailors you. With this online transition, it's so easy to connect with people from anywhere, even across the world. I've actually never met my formal mentor in person. She is across the country, and we still make time every couple weeks or 2 weeks to have time to update and talk about our lives and what I can better do to move forward. And I know a couple of weeks ago with the Power of Mentoring events, we brought young leaders across the globe, and it was a really cool experience for someone like me to be a part of, because I've never left Canada to network and connect with people from different leaders from different countries and cultures. So not only am I meeting mentors at these events virtually, I'm making lasting connections with incredible youth across the world. And saying that out loud is extraordinary, but there's so much benefit gained for everyone at these events. And the opportunities are endless if you take action to network.
Thank you so much, Ipellie. We've highlighted a little bit around the pandemic and the shift. And I really liked what you said, Noah, around, you know, when times are good, right, you can build things, but when times are bad, and I'd like to consider, you know, initially when we first entered into the pandemic, right, it felt bad and it felt heavy and there was lots of anxiety for everybody. And so that intentionality around how can we bridge connections and conversations for young people across this country, but also from an employee perspective. And we've highlighted just briefly on the impact for mentees, young leaders, but also the impact for mentors in those conversations. And I'm wondering if we can highlight a little bit, and if you can share the impact that Power of Mentoring has had for your employee engagement during the pandemic, and the meaning that it's had to build those connections with young people across our country. Gillian, can I hand it to you? Do you mind?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first and foremost, I think, and Tracy, you kind of spoke to this at the top of the call, was, you know, the ability to stay connected and continue to make a meaningful contribution when everybody was locked at home, and just like we felt a little bit helpless in terms of what we could do. So that was a very big part. And I think, you know, what we saw in terms of the benefits of our employees being engaged in this program. I think the other benefits also, you know, with this pivoting to virtual, it also allowed us to engage employees in other parts of, you know, in other offices across Canada that may not have necessarily have had the opportunity to get involved because, you know, originally when this was an in-person event, it may not have been in their city. So even just the opportunity for us to engage more of our employees across the board, and just making it more available for employees to be a part of, because not having a set date and time and really being able to book and, you know, plan for your mentoring sessions whenever it works for both the mentor and mentee also meant just a lot more flexibility in being involved. So there was just a lot of incredible benefits to this. And, you know, personally, what I really hope to see, you know, as the world recommences and we get back to live events, which I know we're all looking forward to as well, but there is this benefit of continuing with sort of this virtual model, because it just allows for higher engagement all around, more people involved. So really hope to see that continue past this.
Thanks, Gillian. And absolutely, that has been one of the gifts of COVID, is that our virtual Power of Mentoring events will never end. We want to continue that post-COVID, post-pandemic, when we can start to meet again. But what we will do is then start to bridge connections in communities between private sector employees and companies and young leaders and youth in local communities. So that is really exciting for us, that we can have a broad span of connection across our country in Canada with young leaders, but we can also then bridge and build those connections in local communities for youth tomorrow. And so from a Mentor Canada perspective, we're excited to be able to do both, and that we can simultaneously do both. And if a young leader wants to participate locally and virtually, like, isn't that a tremendous opportunity for them to build those networks on both realms? So thank you. Noah, can I hand it to, or Keshia, your mic is off. Do you want me to hand it to you?
Oh, thank you. Just to build on what Gillian said, not only, like, we're talking about removing barriers, right? Often people don't have equal opportunity. I find with the virtual Power of Mentoring, when we held, it was 60 of our partners, our employees, were in one Power of Mentoring session for 90 minutes last summer with 40 youth. And the feedback after those events were huge. They were like, I talked to somebody in Newfoundland and I'm in Vancouver. When would that ever have happened in normal life, right? Because of the city and the logistics of being in person. But it also provided our employees to engage with each other, and they would have never had that opportunity if the virtual Power of Mentoring events weren't happening, because they're hearing the stories of their fellow coworkers in the Montreal office or in Nova Scotia, in Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary. Like, it was a coast-to-coast Power of Mentoring event. And they got to learn and bond and hear in these small groups of 3 to 4 people as we rotated. So from an employee engagement perspective, that brought a lot of value to the organization itself, getting to learn more from each other. I know one of my favorite stories is just hearing a youth present an actual dilemma that they're having in real time, and 3 Starbucks partners providing advice on what they could do today, tomorrow, to help solve that. And the youth being receptive and saying, yeah, like, that could work for me. And the immediate impact, the immediate value, like, that to me is huge, and why I love Power of Mentoring. And building your network outside of your own community, because I might live in Toronto, but maybe I have aspirations to one day move to Vancouver, and virtual Power of Mentoring can allow me to build a local network virtually in somewhere I never thought that could be possible too. So I just think the barrier reduction is huge. And I really thank you all for pivoting so amazingly and bringing this to us.
Thank you so much, Keshia. I completely agree. And we've heard hands-on from young people. And it was a young man that attended a Power of Mentoring event on the East Coast in a small town in Nova Scotia. And he just said, look, I would never have had the opportunity to meet this individual and to engage in these conversations. And he said, and especially during the pandemic, I'm feeling so isolated that I've just built a connection with people that I'm going to continue to have these conversations with. And I think I want to highlight that that's one of the important things for us at, we are not a service provider, but what we want to do is promote connections for young people that are connected to youth serving organizations and programs, to individuals, and then to continue those conversations if they want to on their terms. So connect through LinkedIn, share an email address, continue the conversation beyond that 90 minutes is what we're encouraging. On the flip side, with our partners, our youth serving partners that are engaging young people to take the risk and in coming into a virtual realm, we're also then encouraging those employees, if to have that taste of mentoring, and that is what it could be, to then sign up and volunteer to become a mentor with some of those organizations if they want to. So it's bridging those opportunities and giving employees a taste of what mentoring and what a mentoring relationship could be. No, I'm going to hand it to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways I could answer this question too. I mean, one of my favorite things to say about whether you have engaged employees is that it depends a lot on whether you saw engaged as a verb in that sentence or as an adjective. And I think employee engagement really is about engaging them, and not about hoping that they feel engaged, but helping them to be engaged through your own active work. And the power of mentorship events is just one amazing tool that an organization can kind of put into its tool belt for employees. And one of the ways that we've seen it happen at RBC is that we actually have, as I'm sure a lot of my colleagues on the panel do, is we have employee resource groups, which are sort of semi-formal, informal kind of associations of employees who fall or who identify into different categories. And in particular, we have one for what we call our next gen, which are sort of younger employees, obviously millennials being the majority of the workforce in Canada right now. So we have a lot of young employees who would maybe, I don't know if they willingly or publicly identify as millennials, but who are regardless. And in order to help them create programs for engagement, the power of mentorship tool has really been critical, because they've been able to create events across the country, obviously virtual, but still based in community, where they engage with local partners, community members, employees, and then bring on senior leaders from RBC as as speakers or as sort of kind of guests. And through those events, you get this amazing mixing of almost anything can come out of it. Like, you've got obviously individual mentorship opportunities, but you also have community building. You've got groups that form. You have maybe businesses that get funding, or ID or clients sign up, or people realize that there are resources they didn't have. I mean, there's just so much kind of exciting potential that can come out of those events. And we've seen it over the last year, and it's now happening like from coast to coast to coast. And it's just been an amazing tool for our employees. So yeah, it's one way that we are engaging them.
Thank you so much, Noah. I agree that coast to coast and bridging for employees together during this time as well, when remote work is the new norm, is just a wonderful way to build those connections, not only within your organizations, but with young people. And I always leave Power of Mentoring sessions in awe of the young leaders that are stepping up, taking a risk, and that are going to be our tomorrow. And I'm so encouraged by what our future will hold with young leaders like Ipellie that step forward and want to make a difference in the future, and want the feedback, want those connections, want to be challenged, as each of you have explicitly shared that a mentor in your life has challenged you, engaged you in difficult conversations, and led you to a different place to be the best that you could be, and into new opportunities. So thank you. I am just conscious of time, and I wanted to just answer a couple of questions that were in the question and answer box. So from a Mentor Canada perspective, absolutely, for the service providers on the call today, please connect with us. We would love to have your organization, your program, and those young leaders within your organizations participate in Power of Mentoring. We will fully equip you with the information, and for your youth to sign up. So we want you to do that. The other question that was in the question box for us is around discriminatory challenges and barriers. And if so, how are you helping to address those with young people, and how are Power of Mentoring events maybe removing some of those barriers that they're experiencing right now? Noah, maybe I'm going to start with you for our last couple of minutes.
Sure. So as like an old white cisgendered settler man, I probably haven't experienced personally a lot of discrimination, or if I have, I haven't been aware of it, and probably I've benefited from discrimination, if I'm completely honest with like how society works. So I think it's the most important thing is that I acknowledge that it exists and that it shouldn't, and that these are issues that all of us suffer from in some ways, some of us as direct victims, and overall as a society, if we are not allowing each and every person to bring their full potential and contribute to like the betterment of society, then we are all failing ourselves in that way. So my experiences or hopefully those of an ally who's more focused on making sure that that barriers and inequities are actually brought down because of the realization that we're all going to be better together if we can work, with mutual respect and full and fair opportunity. So hopefully that is the perspective I can bring, and that is certainly something that I'm very lucky our RBC allows me to do through my work.
Excellent, thank you. Gillian, I'm going to hand it to you.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about, how Canada is going to thrive in this post-COVID world, I think, we really look to, I think we recognize the need to be more resilient, but also the value in having, we're all striving for, better equity and diversity in our workforce. We know that's just not the right thing to do, but it makes business sense because, when businesses have different points of view and different voices around the table, they are more resilient, they are more innovative, they do better. And part of what we do through power mentoring, and again, the reason why we put such a focus on wanting to work with those communities that are underrepresented, that have had traditional barriers to getting access to opportunities, is because we want to build that pipeline of future workers so they have those opportunities to be able to, for the future of work, to work with these businesses and be able to represent. And so, yeah, I mean, for us, it's huge, it's critical, it's a big part of what we do because we know it's just good to do, and it's also good for businesses to do.
Thanks, Gillian. I completely agree. It's all about our future and that we're better together. So thank you for sharing that. Keshia, I'm going to hand it to you.
We actually formed at Starbucks an I&D council to address exactly this, discriminatory challenges and barriers, and formalized it. We put together an anti-racism plan where mentoring was one of the solutions to help resolve barriers and resolve challenges, because we know it's inherent and it happens, and what could we do to be part of the solution? Like we say, we want to start a mentorship movement. Me personally, I've been very fortunate where if it has happened to me, I think I'm also pretty confident in myself, and I don't allow anything negative to really get me down. And I've been fortunate to be very positive and forward-looking in my approach to things. So I don't feel like I've faced discriminatory challenges or barriers, but I really feel like my role is to help people. So how can I make a difference in my organization, for our stores, for our partners, for the corporate strategy, so that it allows capacity for them to go and help people and remove those barriers?
Thanks, Keshia. Really important messaging, right, around those big moves that each of your organizations are doing, and that it's top of mind. It is a focus moving forward, and that you're conscious that you need to be better, and we all will be better if individually as corporations we're better. Ipellie, I'm going to turn it to you as the voice of youth around your experience and how this has impacted you.
I'm going to just go into this with an Indigenous lens. I came across this really startling fact in 2016. In Canada, over 50% of Indigenous people growing up on the reserves, they wouldn't graduate high school by the age of 25. And I'm 23 right now. I have college, university, and high school. And so to feel that I'm very privileged is, it will open my eyes a lot. And, the educational system is not perfect, while the majority of Indigenous population are youth right now under the age of 18. So how do you solve this issue? And what I really believe in is I think mentors and personal connections are what is going to bring skills and wisdom into the heart of these communities. And I think that's going to be an impactful step in the future. And so I think it's great to see events like these being presented. And I truly hope to see more people willing to pass their skills and knowledge to our youth today in the next decade, because I think it is a very urgent issue in our society.
Thank you, Ipellie. the heart of our communities. And I believe those connections really are the heart of our communities. And whether that is through a formal mentoring program or through an informal connection that a young person can build and to create community and those support networks. So I know we are over time, but your voices have been so very important. On behalf of Mentor Canada, thank you so very, very much to Gillian at Deloitte, Noah at RBC, Keshia at Starbucks, and certainly Ipellie for your wisdom, your insight, and for contributing to mentoring young people across our country. I wanted to share one last piece because I know there are some questions in the field around what next and what does that mean for us at Mentor Canada. And so next step is if you are a company and a corporation or private sector business on the call today, please get in touch with us if you would be interested in participating in a Power of Mentoring event. We would love to have you join these 3 dynamic corporations as part of our Power of Mentoring events. If you are a young person or a youth serving organization, also please connect with us. We would love to have more young people engage in these conversations. And if you're a young person on the call today, please sign up through our website for Power of Mentoring events. Sign up for as many as you like. The more you can participate, we would love that in building out your network. So again, thank you to Keshia, Noah, Gillian, and Ipellie for today. Such rich discussion. I learned so very, very much as well. And thank you for your investment in young people. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.